The Paladin's father was a man known for many feats. He was a devout knight, a man of his word, a great warrior, a loving husband, and a dedicated father. Much like his father before him, he followed the guidelines of the Nine in mind, body, and soul. As a member of the Knights of the Nine, he had to take on various tasks all over Cyrodiil, one of which led him to the great chapel of Mara in Breville. It was here that he met the Paladin's mother. She was a priestess in the great chapel. He used to tell stories of love at first sight and how it was Mara's will that they met. After they married, they moved close to the Priory of the Nine, where he was a respected knight and she could still speak for Mara as a priestess. While she was pregnant, she spent a lot of time with the kids of the area, teaching them about Mara's love and wisdom. One of her favorite teachings was, Mara says, live soberly and peacefully, honor your parents, and preserve the peace and security of home and family. When the Paladin was born, both parents couldn't have been happier. His father boasted about him taking on the lineage and joining the order, while his mother taught him the values to set him on the path to become a good man. Everything was peaceful. Stories of the Oblivion Crisis seemed only a myth at times, but there were rumors of impending war and unrest in the Aldmeri Dominion. Travelers from afar would rest at inns and tell tales of political chaos and unease. Soon, war was at the Empire's doorstep. The Thalmor had come to Cyrodiil. The Paladin's mother died while helping with relief efforts for victims of the war. He was still young when this happened. His father took a period to grieve with his son for the loss of his wife. The Battle of the Red Ring was known all across Cyrodiil by now. The Empire fought long and hard, but couldn't take any more. Everyone wanted peace and would have done almost anything to get it. With the signing of the White Gold Concordat, peace came, but at a high price. The Thalmor had gotten almost everything they wanted in the end. The disbanding of the Blades, outlawing the worship of Talos, and they were working towards taking a part of Hammerfell. The news came fast. Talk of the Thalmor coming to the Priory for the official disbandment of the Order. His father packed him as much as he could carry and told him to go with the group fleeing from the Priory, leaving him only with the advice, never mention the Priory and that your father was a Knight of the Nine. Hold your beliefs, but keep small counsel. You must hide to survive. Soon after, news of the raid on the Priory spread quickly throughout Cyrodiil. The Paladin's father had been slain along with the rest of the knights. The Paladin was in his teens and had already lost both parents, but with his parents' guidance over the years he had become a survivor. He lived life mostly off the lands, honing his skills with a sword and shield, constantly on the run from the Thalmor. He continued to flee, but never let his flight prevent him from helping those in need. However, soon he could feel the Thalmor drawing ever closer to his heels. He had made it all the way to Skyrim, only to get caught up in an Imperial raid on the Stormcloaks. Knowing nothing about this land and its civil disputes, being captured was the last thing he wanted. However, it was in this cold, barren land where his story would truly begin. The Paladin, as his title implies, is a stalwart hero and devoted champion of light, dedicated to the Nine Divines and guardian to their earthly children. He dedicates his very life to bringing light and good into the world and abolishing darkness and evil wherever he finds it. He will ride from town to town, offering to help all those in need and hunting down the creatures and villains who would bring harm to the good people of Skyrim. This opens up a vast variety of quests within the game, and of course, will lead him to many an adventure. His training with his father has not left him ignorant of the ways of the Daedric princes, and as such, while he is not fond of Daedra as a whole, he is aware that not all Daedra are evil. To this end, he will develop an alliance with Meridia as they share the same goals of bringing light to the world and eradicating the undead scourge across the land. To this same end, he will side with the Dawnguard to abolish the Volokar vampires. Serena will be an exception here, of course, as she herself is not evil and had no choice in what she became. He will, however, attempt to convince her to find a cure if possible. If you choose to become involved in the Civil War, the Paladin will side with the Imperials. While there is no love lost between himself and the Thalmor, he does love his homeland and wants to see it eventually rise from under their thumb. Another reason for this decision lies in the tactics of the Stormcloaks, which the Paladin will view as extremist and possibly terrorist. The primary questline will of course be very important to the Paladin, seeing his role as Dragonborn to be a divine mission placed upon his shoulders by Akatosh himself. Thus, the eradication of Alduin will be one of his primary goals. Likewise, with the rise of Miraak, the Paladin will rise to stop the fallen Dragonborn and stop him from endangering the world he holds dear. You are also free to help the College of Winterhold and join the Companions. However, should you join the Companions, he will elect not to become a member of the Inner Circle, seeing the werewolf curse as a taint upon their humanity. Having fought alongside the Companions though, he will not judge them for being werewolves, instead seeing the good people they are despite this. The Paladin is a beast in combat, especially against the undead, unsurprisingly. High defense, healing capability, and crowd control make survivability an easy affair. Melee will be your primary combat style, rushing into the fray with your shield raised to knock your foes off their feet, alongside tactical use of Oriel's shield and the unrelenting force shout. This will keep most enemies helpless for the vast majority of fights, and thus easy prey for the Paladin's sword. When dealing with undead, you will become even more deadly. Casting Stendarr's aura before engaging means undead enemies will take continuous damage while in melee range, and Sunburst will give you ranged options when need be. If you're using the modded version of the build, these skills will be useful against all enemy types while dealing even more damage to undead. The mods used will also give you access to the powerful area of effect spell, Blue Giant. But more on the mods later. As an Imperial, the Paladin will receive plus 10 to Restoration and plus 5 to Block, Destruction, Enchanting, Heavy Armor, and One-Handed, all of which is of benefit to the build, with Destruction being the only exception. You will also receive Imperial Luck, increasing the amount of gold found within the game, and more importantly, the racial power Voice of the Emperor, which will allow you to remove aggression from humanoid enemies for 60 seconds once a day, giving you time to regroup and heal if needed, or to make easy targets of these enemies. In early game, you will select the Warrior Standing Stone, increasing the rate at which you learn your melee combat skills. Once you have obtained the Ethereal Crown, you will take both the Lord Stone and the Atronach, granting you an additional 50 points of damage resistance, an extra 25% magic resistance, plus 50 to Magicka, and will allow you to absorb 50% of Magicka from spells cast upon you. You will regenerate Magicka 50% slower, but your minimal use of magic combined with the absorption provided by the Atronach Stone more than makes up for this. Your stat spread will be 50% health, 30% stamina, and 20% magicka. Your primary skills will be one-handed, block, and heavy armor, with restoration, enchanting, and smithing as secondary skills. As we get into gear, this is where you will see a few differences from this version of the build versus the original. However, they will all be minor. For the vanilla version of the build, you will use Dawnbreaker and Oriel's shield for your weapon and shield respectively, along with the Blade's armor, Blade's boots, and Blade's gauntlets. While the black motif does clash a bit with the aesthetic, in my opinion, I do believe the armor as a whole looks good, and this set was actually recommended by one of you, our dear viewers. Finally, for your accessories, you will use the Galder amulet and any self-enchanted ring. Now, for the modded version of the build, you will only change out 3 pieces of gear, using the Shudad armor, boots, and gauntlets respectively. This gear is much more appropriate for the build aesthetically in my opinion, and is the gear used in this video. Your most important enchantments for this build will be as follows: Fortify Health, Fortify Heavy Armor, Fortify One-Handed, Fortify Stamina Regen, and Fortify Magicka Resistance. Fortify Heavy Armor may or may not be to your liking in endgame depending on how well you utilize smithing, since despite the number given, armor rating actually has a cap of 567 when not using a helmet and the associated perks for having full sets. Thus, in endgame, if you reach this armor rating without the enchantments, you would be better served stacking on one of the other enchantments in its place. Your favorited spells will be Grand Healing, Stendarr's Aura, and Vampire's Bane for the vanilla version. While with the modded version, you will replace Stendarr's Aura with Corona, Vampire's Bane with Sunburst, and add in Blue Giant. Your favorited shouts will be Unrelenting Force, Dragon Rend, and Dragon Aspect. Your favorited powers will be Voice of the Emperor, Mora's Boon, and Secret of Protection. For the Black Books, you will take the following powers: Dragonborn Force, Secret of Protection, Mora's Boon, Seeker of Might, and Companion's Insight. Now, let's talk perks. In One-Handed, you will take 5 points in Armsman, granting 100% more damage to one-handed weapon attacks. Fighting Stance, reducing the stamina cost to one-handed weapon power attacks by 20%. Savage Strike, allowing standing power attacks to deal 25% more damage with a chance to decapitate. Critical Charge, allowing you to do a one-handed power attack while sprinting that deals double damage. And Paralyzing Strike, causing your backwards power attacks to have a 25% chance to paralyze enemies. In Block, you're going to take every last perk. 5 points in Shield Wall, making your blocks 40% more effective. Quick Reflexes, which will slow time when blocking power attacks. Deflect Arrows, causing arrows that hit the shield to deal no damage. Elemental Protection, which will allow blocking to reduce elemental damage by 50%. Block Runner, allowing you to move faster while blocking. Power Bash, which will allow you to power bash. Deadly Bash, causing shield bashes to deal 5 times more damage. Disarming Bash, which gives shield bash a chance to disarm enemies. And Shield Charge, which will allow you to sprint with the shield and knock enemies down. In Heavy Armor, you will take 5 points in Juggernaut, increasing the armor rating for Heavy Armor by 100%. Fists of Steel, allowing unarmed attacks while wearing Heavy Armor to deal additional damage equal to your armor rating. Cushioned, which will reduce falling damage while wearing all Heavy Armor by half. And Conditioning, which will cause Heavy Armor to weigh nothing and no longer slow you down. Do note that Fists of Steel and Cushioned won't be used by the build, but are required to reach Conditioning. In Smithing, you will take Steel Smithing, allowing you to craft steel gear and improve it twice as much, and Arcane Blacksmith, allowing you to improve already enchanted gear. This has been reduced from the original perks of the build, because the vast majority of the gear you will be using will not actually benefit from most of the smithing perks. In Restoration, you will take Novice, Apprentice, Adept, Expert, and Master Restoration, reducing the cost of associated spells by 50%. 2 points in Recovery, causing your Magicka to regenerate 50% faster. Avoid Death, which will allow you to heal 250 points when your health falls below 0 once per day. Regeneration, causing healing spells to heal 50% more. Necromage, making your spells more effective when cast against undead. And Respite, which allows healing spells to recover stamina as well. And finally, in enchanting, you will take 5 points in Enchanter, making enchantments 100% stronger. Insightful Enchanter, making skill enchantments on armor 35% stronger. Corpus Enchanter, making health, magicka, and stamina enchantments on armor 25% stronger. And extra effect, allowing you to place 2 enchantments on any single item. Mods used for the variant of this build will be minimal, utilizing only 2 mods. BDO Shootad armor for the gear, obviously, and the Heliomancy spell pack, which along with adding a couple of new spells, such as Blue Giant into the game, also makes alteration to spells and gear that deal sun damage, causing it to now deal damage to all enemies while dealing greater damage to undead, rather than sun damage causing damage only to undead enemies. And that, dear viewers, is the Paladin Reborn. As you will see, the slight changes I've made to this build in no way hinder its effectiveness or change up your playstyle, but rather simply streamlines the build a bit. If you're disappointed that I didn't bring you a brand new build this week, I apologize, but I've been wanting to remake the Paladin video since we started our videos on YouTube to give it the quality it deserves along with my other builds. But fear not, because of this I have already begun work on the next build and it will be coming very soon without the typical wait between videos. I will return next time with the all new build, the Berserker. Thank you guys so much for watching and continuing to support our channel. I have plenty more builds coming your way soon. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm Shadow Lord Zero of MasterQuest Gaming. See you all next time, and happy questing.